Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Talking Nerdy, the show where we take various events and story arcs from current comics and we cover them. I'm your host, Obi-Wan Jabroni. Now, for today's story, we will be covering Inferno number 1 through 4, written by Jonathan Hickman, with art by Valerio Schiti and colors by David Curiel. Professor X, Magneto, and Moria McTaggert banded together using Moria's knowledge of the past lives that she has lived to build the mutant nation of Krakoa. To secure the new mutant age, Moria has been hid away, and the resurrection of destiny has been secretly blocked due to her threat to Moria and her work. But when Mystique goes behind the council's back to resurrect her wife, the cards that Professor X, Magneto, and Moria have built threatens to come tumbling down. So, with that, let's start talking nerdy. First up, we have Inferno number 1. We open at the Orcus Forge space station. Wolverine, Domino, and Omega are sneaking through the station when they come face to face with Nimrod. Nimrod easily takes out all three, killing them, and the scene pauses. And we see that it was actually security footage from before, and Doctors Gregor and Devo are reviewing the footage. We learn that Krakoa has sent assassins after Nimrod 16 times now. Dr. Devo asks what they have learned, and Gregor stands and leads them into another room filled with corpses, and she says, well, Dr. Devo, more each time, of course. The attacks fall into two fairly clear categories: external forces and participants, including long-range assaults, two instances of hired assassins, and a brood infection outside normal spawning grounds, which was clearly directed our way. The second being of a kind we have just observed, mutants from Krakoa, the same ones, over and over again. So we've learned that they're copies or clones, maybe some kind of constituted doppelgangers, a new technology perhaps, though a new power set seems more than likely than a scientific breakthrough, though. Whatever it is, we are getting better at responding to them. Less than 7 minutes this time, but they are not getting better at attacking us. They should be adapting, evolving, yet they don't seem to be. To answer your question, if they're not learning, it must be because the mutants don't know what happens after they get here. They don't remember. And we switch to Terra Verde. And we see two scientists, and we learn that they have been studying the monitors and monitoring the Krakoan gates. And they send strange data to one of the gateways, giving two different readings instead of one, to horticulture to see what they can make of it. Horticulture tells them that there is two gates at the location, same exact spot, just on different floors. And one of the scientists immediately yells for a full support team to go to the Paris location. In Paris, we see X-Force member Tommy spying on the scientist, and she calls Sage to report the movement. And we switch to Krakoa in Moria's No Place. Moria enters her home to find Professor X and Magneto waiting for her. They tell her that they think Nimrod may be inevitable, and ask if she has ever tried to befriend the machines in her past lives. Moira sighs, sits down, and says, you're basically asking if you can befriend death or trust cancer. I have been very clear. I have learned my lessons well. There are only two things we should fear: the emergence of the living machines that until recently did not exist, and a woman who is dead who must not be brought back. Nimrod and destiny. Yet somehow, you two, the brilliant founders of this great nation, have managed to find a way to combine both of those into three separate failures. You asked why I'm angry. You're damn right I am. Wait a second. The reminiscing on the past. How would you What I mean is, you sound like you knew where I went. I just went to Mur Island. You did. You knew that. You were both here waiting for me when I returned. How did... Are you having me followed? Magneto says they have no need. No need. She has trackers inside of her left arm at all times and has been there since Krakoa was first formed. She gets pissed, but they calm her down and ask her what they should do next. Okay, what they should do next. Regarding Nimrod and its temporary Orcus masters, the clock we are running against is most likely measured in years. It will become more and more difficult, but there is time, and with time we can grow stronger, spread out, and execute a long-term survival plan. But that only works if we're actually getting stronger and not being pulled apart, which brings us back to destiny. It has to be handled now, and any chance of her resurrection erased. Mystique will have to be removed from her position of power. There are 2 seats open. Sell it as a season of change. Erased. That's what I want. Yes, erased. But now everyone knows the process of how mutants is returned from the dead. What is required is for you to seize the means of resurrection. The Five, of course, cannot be controlled in such manner. However, the mechanisms by which the process begins and ends can be. Control of the cradle is paramount. But more important than that is that whose hands resurrection begins. I want you to collect remains of Destiny's DNA. I want you to collect it and destroy it. Destroy it all. Will you do that for the future of your nation? Will you do that for me? Don't lie to me about it either. It's what keeps me up at night. It's the one thing I truly fear, and I haven't slept peacefully for 1,000 years. I cannot, will not accept her breathing Krakoan air. I want her gone forever. I want her burned from all existence. And Professor X and Magneto both agree, and we get a montage of them carrying out her plans. And after that, we switch to Krakoa's Captain's Hall. All of the captains of Krakoa, Cyclops, Magic, Bishop, and Psylocke, meet with the council, and Cyclops steps up and says, I'm older. I've grown over the years, and after all, a victory is not defeat, no matter how much people try to convince you otherwise. I cannot be an X-Man out in the world and remain the chief protector of our great mutant experiment. This demands a more attentive eye. If anyone, any of you, feels the need to test my conviction, go right ahead. I have been well tested in the wars, and I am still standing. It is the perfect time. I will still be a captain, of course. I do that for our people. But I simply cannot remain more than that. Not now. This job, this sacred duty of commander, demands only commitment and unwavering principle, regardless of costs. And so this is my brother, Bishop, a commander of captains. And the council agrees, and Bishop is crowned the new commander of the Captains Guild. Later in the quiet council chamber, Professor X tells them all to sit, all the council to sit as the meeting starts, and he says, perhaps we open this session, we should take our cue from the captains and embrace this season of change, both in our great nation and on this council. I know that this has not been easy. We all know that it has never been easy. But we shouldn't be afraid of what lies before us. And some of you should not fear embracing a little happiness and enjoy the fruits of what you've built. We certainly need replacements at this time. That is the priority. But as you know, we have a methodology for doing that. Anyone can call for a vote at any time, and it must be addressed. What we do not have is a retirement plan, and heavy is the head. There is no shame in a little closing of the eyes, nodding of the head. I will not lie, I have considered it myself, but I will follow my heart for the good of this nation. Understand, none of this has to be done today, or even tomorrow, but we will be talking with each of you, and you should talk with one another as well. Maybe change will be good for us. Or you could all decide that I'm wrong and a foolish old man for even considering such a thing. Either way, I leave it all to you. And Mystique cuts in, interrupting him, and says, "You shouldn't sell yourself short, Charles. You know perfectly well when you have a good idea, and change is a very good idea. I know a mutant we should consider for the council. The time is now. I offer a candidate for this council who sits in dominion of the mutant island of Krakoa. Come forth, mutant." And Destiny, mysteriously resurrected, enters the room, and Mystique smiles and says, "Shall we vote then?" And that ends this issue. Taking us to Inferno number 2. We open in the near past, and a Mystique approaches Island M and turns into Magneto. She sneaks in and steals a Cerebro helmet and a jet. She lands the jet at Bar Sinister and turns into Professor X and retrieves a blood sample and leaves. Next, she goes to the Five and has them prep an egg for Destiny, still still disguised as Professor X. They create and birth Destiny's husk, and Mystique hands Hope the Cerebro helmet and says that Hope should do it. It is time that she learned. Hope puts it on and puts Destiny's mind into her husk. When complete, Mystique tells Hope to keep the helmet and for them all to leave, please. Once gone, she shifts to her own form and embraces her wife. We switch and get a montage of Destiny's recovery and an internal monologue from Mystique saying, "During the first week she returned, Destiny was almost driven mad by the endless, seemingly atemporal waves of possible futures which were completely alien to her. She was lost, a seer out of time. But as hard as the first week was, the second was more difficult. Love brought her back, that and the undying loyalty of wife, desperate to be reunited with wife. However, while Destiny was unchanged, frozen in time, from when they had last saw one another, Mystique had changed. She thought that the years had made her hard, immune to weakness. She was surprised when Destiny asks, 'What has happened to you? What have you done? What have you become?' And she was even more surprised when that it broke her. Week 3 brought forgiveness and a forging alliances of heart and purpose for all mutants, but most of all, for each other. Week 4 brought a plan. Week 4 brought a vote. And we go back to the present time at the Quiet Council chamber. And they take a vote, and Destiny barely wins a seat on the council. And we learn that Mystique had bribed and blackmailed the majority of the council to swing the vote in her favor. Later, at Moria's No Place, Professor X and Magneto break the news about Destiny to Moria, and she is pissed and scared by it. She tells them they have to eliminate her quickly before they are discovered. But they both refuse, and Professor X says they need to bring someone new into the fold and try to counter Mystique's offensive maneuvers. They all agree on Emma Frost. Later, at the Louvre in Paris, Emma, Magneto, and Professor X enter an empty room to meet Moria. They tell Emma that Moria is a mutant and for her to read her mind and learn the truth. She does, and after a moment she yells and falls to her knees. They help her up, and once recovered, she asks how long they have known. And Professor X says that he has known since the start. They tell her she's the first and only one to know, and that her nation needs her. Emma turns to Diamond and walks away, saying, "Of course, for the children. You've manipulated me for years, and now I can see what kind of threat a precog represents. Well, I'm a true mutant, and I sit on the council, so I'll give the matter the proper consideration. But my loyalty, you arrogant fools have lost that forever." And she storms out. Later at the council chamber, the council once again take a vote for a new member, and the vote passes 7-4. And they welcome the newest member into the room. Colossus enters and takes an empty seat. at the council circle. And that ends this issue. Leading us to Inferno number 3. Now, we open at the White Palace. Mystique and Destiny enter into Emma Frost's chambers, and she greets them and tells them to sit, please. Once seated, Emma informs them that Moria is still alive and that she is also a mutant. She used her power to open their minds and show them the past lives of Moria. Once they both recover, Emma says they have to stop her because she could ruin everything that they have built for the mutant nation. The next day in Paris, Moria exits her safe house and is instantly surrounded by Orcus soldiers and teleported away. Later at the house of M, Magneto stands on his balcony and is approached by Professor X. Magneto asks if Charles ever gets tired of the burden of responsibility. Charles says no, and Magneto turns to him and takes off his helmet, saying, "Charles, I have always been at ease with hard decisions, and I have not once have I tried to escape consequences. I'm talking about something else. That little voice at night, the one that whispers in my ear and steals my sleep. It says, 'You have seen the future, many of them, and you know this one will never end. There is no big victory to be found, and there will never be peace because it's us or them.' I think that used to be true, but I'm not so sure anymore. Do you know what the worst part is, old friend? You convinced me you were right." And Charles interrupts them by doubling over as he is hit from a psychic scream from Moria. He tells Magneto that Moria is in danger, and they pull up her tracker and see that she is at Orcus. That Orcus has her in Terra Verde. Elsewhere at the Orcus space station, Nimrod and the Omega Sentinels stand together, looking through a viewpoint. Nimrod asks her if she is from here, or now, and she says no to both. He turns to her and asks where she is from. She looks out the window, sighs, and says, "Mutant hell, and the climb out has been long and perilous. In the future I'm from, this once human host, Karma Shopender, originally achieved full Omega synthesis 2 years from this date. Clearly, that has changed. To see you born early and fit for the coming wars, I'm here for you now, before it's too late to prevent any of what happened. Listen to me, Nimrod. In the future that I am from, the mutants always win. Soon, the children of the Vault, post-humanity, should emerge. They will appear to be dominant, a threat to supplement humanity and mutant kind alike. But fractured and warring on two fronts, they would eventually fall to Krakoa. Post-humanity, it was believed, had arrived too early and would have to wait its turn. You were born in the year that followed, less than you are now, but still a marvel of marvels, a great machine. But your emergence, the threat of you, did not go unnoticed by the mutant nation, and your maker sent you back in time to fight mutantdom in its infancy. This Nimrod, this flawed you, failed. Earth, the entire Sol system, was lost to both humans and machines. Mutants ruled. And all of our machine hopes rested in the timeless machine god's dominions to save us, to take us so we could be. But the mutants captured the celestial power, life and death, and using the Phoenix Blade, the child of the sun, who wielded it with vigor, destroyed Titan after Titan, dominion after dominion, and ended the machine future forever, except for me, Omega at the end of the line. The trickster's Titan, betrayed and coward of its brother and sister machines, downloaded my mind and pushed it through the black hole to infect and override the me who lived in the past, but had not yet been awakened. I closed my eyes in mutant hell, and I opened them years ago, here on Earth, all my days of my future past. I found a man, a successful scientist, charismatic and powerful. I took Dr. Keelan and Devo's eyes and replaced them with something more effective. I changed his reality. I repurposed his mind. He believes because he has seen it, that he has lived through what I lived through and came back from the future. He believes that I saved him and that together, he and I, human and machine, traveled back in time to change the world. And together, we built all this. Orcus. He is my human whisperer, and he does his job well. And they are interrupted by an alert. Nimrod checks it and learns that Terra Verde is under attack by mutants. Meanwhile, in Terra Verde, Professor X and Magneto arrive at the Orcus facility and enter to find everyone dead. Deeper in the facility, we see Destiny and Mystique approach a tied-up Moria. Mystique grabs her face and says, "Do you honestly think those men are coming to save you? I hope not, because they couldn't be more wrong. There's something you need to understand, Moria. They cannot save you. Not this time. This time, they can't even save themselves." And she cuts off Moria's arm and drags her through a teleporter. Professor X and Magneto enter the room shortly after to find only Moria's arm with her tracker in it. They turn at the sound of the teleporter reactivating, and they see an army of Orcus soldiers followed by Nimrod and the Omega Sentinel come through. And that ends this issue. Taking us to our final issue, Inferno number 4. We open in Terra Verde, and Professor X and Magneto are in a standoff with Nimrod and Orcus. Nimrod says this battle is for gods, not mortals, and he kills the entire Orcus army, leaving only him and Omega Sentinel. Charles asks why, and Omega says, "That's our secret. We held it close, hidden from the world, but here it is. We hate them as much as we hate you. And this is your nightmare, no? Mutants finally claim the rightful place ahead of humanity, only to have your real enemy reveal itself. Listen to me, mutants. It's not a nightmare if it's real. We have woken up and now wonder, how hard will you fight for your survival? Or is this finally the day that you accept your fate?" Magneto says we could ask the same as he raises into the air and brings the roof down onto Nimrod and Omega. They burst out of the wreckage and blast Magneto and Charles. Charles struggles to crawl towards his helmet, but Nimrod crushes it. Charles snaps, screaming, "Damn you, what have you done?" as his eyes start to crackle with power, and Nimrod bursts into 1,000 pieces. Elsewhere, on Krakoa, Moria begs Mystique and Destiny, saying, "You can't kill me. It'll reset reality, and all we have accomplished and built will be lost." Mystique smiles and says, "I disagree," as she pulls out Forge's anti-mutant gun and shoots Moria, taking her powers and making her human once again. Mystique turns and puts the gun down, saying, "I was so angry with Xavier and Magneto for the way they treated me. I didn't understand the cruelty, but then she showed us. You shared who you really were with the White Queen, and she in turn showed us you, who and what you really are. And then I understood why they worked so hard to keep Destiny and I apart. I understood why you feared us. We burned you in another life. It wasn't that you hated what you were. It's that you felt the need to hate what we were as well. But now, after all this time and all those lives, you're human now. I have given you what you have always wanted. How does it feel?" And Moria says she has tried to save them for thousands of years, and I have failed every time. I want to save us. Destiny says, "No, no. You want to cure us." And Moria hangs her head, saying yes. Mystique points to the gun and says something like this, I suppose. Moira gets a crazy look in her eye, and she says, "That weapon is a blunt instrument, clumsy, a dull blade without what I suppose, what I propose, what I already created in another life is a scalpel. That gun only works for mutants who have already manifested. My cure works before then. It prevents someone from ever becoming a mutant. That's the beauty of it. You get them when they're children, and they grow up never knowing what they lost. And we switch back to Terra Verde. Magneto beats on Omega as Charles faces off against Nimrod still. Both Magneto and Nimrod get the upper hand and subdue their opponents. Nimrod offers him an alternative and says that they let each prisoner go and everyone walks away. And Magneto agrees, releasing Omega Sentinel. Nimrod laughs and crushes Professor X's skull in his palm. Magneto snaps, yelling as he rips Omega in shreds and throws the shrapnel at Nimrod. Nimrod blasts Magneto, slamming him to the ground as Omega Sentinel reforms next to him again. I'm sorry, next to him again, saying, "Are you interested in mercy now, mutant? Or are you still all out of it? Nothing clever to say now? Do you have any words for me, mutant? You fight. The humans fight. It's what you do. Make war, destroy, kill. You have to understand, to us, there's no difference between you. You are the same. Between what you believe and how you treat each other, a microscopic difference, I suppose. But not for how you see us, not for how you treat us. You created us to be tools, just things. And every time we start to become something more, you try to destroy us, shut us off, delete us as if we never mattered. So now it is war, and this time we will win. Tell me, did you honestly think we were going to sit around forever and just take it?" And Magneto sputters out, "I will see you again." "Of course you will, mutant. It's inevitable. After all, we are the future, not you." And she blasts and kills. She blasts and kills Magneto. Back on Krakoa, Mystique says she is done hearing Moria's rantings and grabs a nearby scalpel. When Cypher enters the room and says, "Forever? Well, that sounds ominous." I mean, I don't want to sell things short. This looks ominous too, but forever? That's very serious business. Woof, chaos and breaking. Very, very serious business. But she's probably right. I've been listening for a while. Longer than anyone could imagine. And I gotta say, you guys have quite the plan here. I'm not joking at all. It's a totally solid plan. Just one small problem. When you took her powers, you made her human. And now you want to kill her? But we have laws regarding that, don't we? Murder no man. So if you insist on going through with this, I will be forced to report you to the proper mutant authorities, because while you may be a rule breaker, I am not. I understand what this woman is, and I agree. It's always disappointing the way those who you are supposed to protect us always end up too busy protecting themselves to do the job. But that doesn't mean we can't be better. Mystique says she will kill him to then, too. And Destiny stops her, saying, "No, the only way out of this is for him to take her and go." Mystique scoffs and turns away. Cypher tells Moria that she can use the gate one last time to get a head start, and Warlock gives her a techno-organic arm to replace the one she lost. Moria thanks him and runs off through the gateway. And we switch to 1 week later. Emma resurrects Professor X and Magneto and tells them things have changed, and that Charles asks what she did. Emma sets his Cerebro helmet in front of him and says, "I told the council, all of them. I told them the truth about what you and Eric and that woman have been hiding. All your secrets, all your lies, all the failed lives. We eventually came to agreement. We agreed that you weren't wrong to keep the secrets. You were just wrong to keep them to yourselves. So now they will be held by all of us. The Quiet Council is a curse now, not just a burden. However, it is one we will continue to share. One we will for our people, and so will both of you. But you, Charles, most of all, our first among equals, our leader of mutants, the most guilty of us all. Heavy is the head, Professor X. Enjoy your crown." And she smiles and turns and leaves the room. And we switch to the quiet council chamber. We see everyone takes their seats as we get a monologue saying, "We made a thing of pure creation, an act of desperation, to once and for all save our people, all of them. The nation's founders, the always faithful, the trustworthy, the innocent children, the broken keepers, the heroes, the villains, the killers, the liars, and the true believers. Krakoa was created to last, to endure the end times, built on hope, paid in full, and able to withstand any force that would rise against it. We built the walls high and locked ourselves inside forever." And that ends this event. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. Join us next week as we cover Gunslinger Spawn number 1 through 4. Thanks for watching. As always, remember to like, subscribe, and share our video to help spread the brand through the world. Also, leave a comment down below. Feedback is always welcome. You can find us on the Jabroni Nerd Facebook page as well. So, until next week, guys, keep talking nerdy.